you want some ants?
Where do you suppose they're going?
Picnics. Ants go to picnics, my grandmother says. Picnics at Riverdale Park. Today, my uncle take us. The free rides, free passes for rides. The roller coaster, the dodger, free rides, got passes from Carson's Hardware.
Way to go!
Can I bring my sister? Sure. My uncle says a man can take. My mom's making sandwiches when she knows how many are going. I'll go up and ask my mom if it's all right.
Oh, it's Ellen Greenberg.
And Sandy. I'll ask Sandy. I'll go get my sister. My uncle wants to leave as soon as he can, so hurry. Hey, everybody, I thought of something. Why don't you come to our place and telephone? We'll telephone instead of running.
Great idea. Let's go.
Thanks a lot, Larry. My folks always use the phone when they need it. It's faster. Sure beats running. Lisa, you go.
I don't think Ellen can go today.
Joe, you try. That's okay. Pa can go ahead of me. I'll call home. My mother doesn't like me to use other people's phones. You get my mother on the phone, and I'll tell you what to say. Oh, I remember. I hurt my finger. So do you want to try calling Sandy? I don't know how. I've never learned a phone. Me neither. Do you, Lisa? Come on, we can still make it if we run. That old phone isn't good for anything anyway.
Look at the phone. It's like magic.
Voice where your friends can hear it. Put your voice in the phone, let the telephone steer it. Send your voice across the miles. Cheerful words are like friendly smiles.
Wow, it looks like a tunnel.
Where do you think it goes?
Who do you think is in there?
Come on.
Yeah. Give me a hand.
Up to what?
Hi, everybody. I'm Telly.
Put your voice where your friends can hear it. Put your voice in the phone, let the telephone steer it. Send your voice across the miles. Cheerful words are like friendly smiles. Greet your pals in distant places. Pleasant voices, happy faces. Pleasant voices, happy faces.
Let's fly. Follow me.
Wow, we're flying. This is fun. There's no handle.
Wait a minute, folks. Here's my magic spell. Stand back, everybody. Franklin, Faraday, Watson, Bell. Open, Telezonia. Put us under your spell.
You know, sometimes when you're watching these old propaganda reels from the 50s and 60s, or 70s in this case, from Bell Labs or AT&T, whatever it was called then, I really wish I could hear the conversations that went down in the writing room when they were coming up with the idea for the next project. And somebody raised their hand and said, hey, why don't we have a character named Telly who could show them the wonders of modern telephones in a magical land called Telezonia. And he could open the portal to Telezonia by reciting this magical spell. And he could wear tights and a miniskirt that barely covers his crotch. Like, what in the actual freak, Bell Labs? I mean, it's kind of perfect because as far as archetypes go, prophetic archetypes, and the fact that it's from Bell Labs is even better. I mean, when you look in the history of Bell Labs and everything that they did, essentially to lay the groundwork for the creation of the internet, they basically were the part of the military-industrial complex like few other companies. You know, it's really hard to kind of even distinguish how much of it was a government operation and how much of it was a private corporation. They were the ones behind the Telstar satellite and I think Echo One. It's like basically the telecommunications arm of the U.S. military. But yeah, let's have this creepy groomer guy be like a Pied Piper to the children so that they go inside the phone and fly through the phone lines like some kind of psychedelic dream until they end up in Telezonia, this magical land of Telezonia, where a bunch of people in number costumes can sing songs to teach them about the telephone. This wonderful new technology. This should be parody, but it's real. And just such an amazing kind of reminder of like where things still were. I mean, did kids really not know how to use the phone in 1974? Probably not. But they definitely were still playing on the sidewalk and out and about. You know, this was the childhood that those of us who were born prior to the great digital revolution, you know, we did get to experience this. And even then it was being advertised as, oh, this wonderful new technology of convenience, you know, to save you the time and energy of running around town to tell your friends it's so much faster and easier to pick up the phone. But the idea was still that, like, it's going to make your life in the real world better and convenient, and oh, we can, you know, we're going to go to the picnic and we're going to go to the fair or whatever they were going to do. And that's been sort of the same pitch that we've been given with each new successive wave of telecommunications technology as we progress through the internet age with email and Microsoft Windows and search engines and cell phones. Every time we were told that it was just going to make life so much more convenient and save you time. I remember in the 90s when they were telling us how, like, because of computers, everyone's going to work like one day a week, and then we'll just have all this free time. And I don't know how many people really believed it then, but in the span of our lifetimes, it's amazing. It's really hard to overemphasize just how radical a shift that we've experienced. When you compare 1974 to 1954, I mean, they had telephones, or even the 30s. It's like, wasn't really that much of a change in terms of kids were still playing outside and going to picnics and, you know, watching television shows, but the shift that has gone on since we got the internet has just been almost exponential. Which brings me kind of back to today, and the first set of clips I'm going to play is from an interview that somebody asked me about a couple days ago. This was on Redacted. It was an interview with James Martinez, who's a self-described whistleblower, talking about nanotech and how it relates to BCI, or brain-computer interface, otherwise known as the Internet of Bodies.
So if I understand this, well, maybe you can explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, which is what they're trying to do to us now. So we've got many people who went and got the shots, having nanoparticles, manipulation of their DNA. We know that to be true now. But beyond that, the cell phone towers, the 5G towers, the constant bombardment of electricity into our lives, the cell phones, all of that. What is the goal? I mean, I think a lot of people might picture like a Dr. Evil sort of sitting there, you know, in an underground bunker. Well, what are we seeing here?
It's to upgrade or alter our species while killing it off. And it's been decided by multiple groups of people. It's not just one single person. When people hear about the World Economic Forum, that's the public arm of the people that have been asked to be in those positions, of people that have decided they want to reduce global population and they want to completely alter what it means to be human. So you have spokespeople like Noah Harari coming out and making statements about hackable animals, which are humans. And you're seeing the ongoing preparation for the separation or division of your divine incarnation, your right to be associated with godhood. That's being removed. So they're going to create a synthetic, different silicon-based type of human that is fused with technology. Either they'll be chipped or they can use other tools to use behavior modification. And what that's going to do, basically it's going to dissolve the boundaries between your inner world and your outer world. That's what it's going to do.
So
because
we understand
everything will be accelerated.
What we're talking about here is, are we talking about the killing of people or the mind-altering control of people?
If I want to get rid of you, I can kill you and then you're dead, right? But if I also want to get rid of you, I'll just alter you. And then I can accelerate your death because I'll have complete control over you, mentally, physically, and your nervous system. And if I want to put you to bed early or kill you off or reduce your life, I can do so. And that's what they're doing. It's just one tool in the toolbox that is being used to reduce population reduction, but it's the most lethal and the most dangerous for humanity. This is the breaking point underway. So when you see interviews with the head of Palantir talking about the biggest, most gigantic surveillance system being put in place, he's not talking about the ecological effects of what that's going to do. This is why a lot of people are saying, this guy's the Antichrist, and they mean it, because he's aiding and abetting the end of your free will, the end of your own cognitive liberty to make decisions based upon your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own history, everything. That's what they're doing. Because what's going to happen is, like, when people are carrying their cell phones and all their apps, they all upgrade. You agree to the terms. Nobody reads the terms.
Right.
And anything on their phone. They don't even read the terms of all their credit card agreements. Nobody reads terms. And they're counting on this by voluntary compliance to walk into this so that they're not responsible for the damage that's going to be done to you and is ongoing right now with people all over the world with this advances. Because when 6G comes in and it's common, we're done. We're done.
So is it one? I want to talk about the who behind this. When we talk about the CIA, MK Ultra, like, is it Palantir? Is it the World Economic Forum?
Palantir, Google,
NGOs?
DARPA, the Department of Defense, military in Europe, the Soviets. Everybody's involved in this because it's the high ground of warfare. When people see war on TV, they think it's bombs and guns and guys going into buildings and tanks, and that's old. That's all totally obsolete. If you want to take over a country, it's much more sophisticated and easier ways of doing it. Take it over and then you run their minds. That's what you do.
So in the United States,
they've already used this type of technology in warfare.
You talked about the United States and already being controlled in a lot of ways. You talked about a massive mental health crisis hitting the U.S., and that'll be manufactured. I was just having a conversation yesterday with someone who said the pharmacist couldn't believe the amount of just young children that are coming in and getting on antidepressants. The pharmacist is writing like a record amount of antidepressant medication. Is this tied together in any of this?
Of course, because when that's synthesized with electromagnetic weapons, Wi-Fi, all the electricity that surrounds you in dense populated areas, that person's their nervous system's already been co-opted. So that's a symptom of their nervous being co-opted, that they're going in for depression because their biorhythms are already totally screwed up. A child born today, and we've seen pictures of this, they have a cell phone shoved in their mouth probably at 5 years old. That changes the entire relationship with the brain, the central nervous system, how they operate in their cognitive behavior, decision-making, all of that. You and I lived when there wasn't that. So we've seen the change happen. We're witness to it. They're not. So their central nervous system operates completely differently. Because you'll notice with a lot of young people, they have like zero attention. Zero.
Right.
Because they deal with the effect of instantaneousness 24 hours a day. They sleep with their phone, they walk with their phone, they cook with their phone, they do everything with their phone. And if you take it away from them, they go into withdrawal and they have like fits. Yeah. We've seen this behavior. So that all these little signs behaviorally are all knee deep embedded in the United States. We've got a tremendous fight ahead of us. This is the spiritual fight of all fights, is the takeover of the brain. It's always been the high ground. It's what Walter Boert, we knew back with Fletcher Prouty and all these guys, that this was the high ground. And it was Jose Delgado, the famous Princeton psychiatrist, I believe. He said that in the future there would be a psycho-civilized civilization. He was very public about it. And yeah, we're there. But this is the final aspect, because user will be interface and neural net sequencing in the brain will be controlled, and their intentions and decisions will be affected. It's kind of like Minority Report upgraded.
It's deeply disturbing.
So yeah, that was a pretty interesting interview, particularly what he was talking about with the younger generation now who's been raised with the iPhone in their mouth or whatever. And I was thinking about that in light of the Telezonia idea, Telezonia 2.0 or even 3.0. I don't know where we're at now. We've talked so much about generations now that are growing up that never knew a time before the internet, but it's crazy to think that the follow-up to that will be a generation who can't remember a time before AI. They'll have lived their entire lives with the ability to just talk to the computer and ask it questions, and the idea of just typing something into Google and getting a list of links will seem antiquated to them. That's pretty insane. And so yeah, I was looking into who this guy James Martinez is, and he's been around kind of a long time, at least 15 years, talking about the nano, and I don't know, the solutions that he talks about in that interview are kind of one-dimensional in the sense that he's talking about how we need to declare our independence in a legal framework now so that we don't get sucked into this. He doesn't know God. He's not a believer. He doesn't know Jesus. He's not looking at it from a biblical perspective. So, I don't know if he's like a spook or not, or what the deal is, but regardless of what you think about James Martinez, he mentions things like Jose Delgado and the work that he was doing back in the 60s and stuff. And yeah, I think anybody who's been looking into this long enough knows MKUltra, trying to hack humans, has been part of the agenda for a long, long time.
Electronic mind control research is not new. A scientific milestone in this area came in the 1960s, when Dr. Jose Delgado demonstrated remote control over a charging bull. By connecting a radio antenna to electrodes inserted into the bull's brain, Delgado proved that the animal's aggressive impulses could be thwarted by electronically manipulating the bull's muscle reflexes.
Do you realize the fantastic possibilities if from the outside we could modify the inside? Could we give messages to the inside? But the beauty is that now we are not using electrodes.
In recent years, Delgado has shown that the behavior of monkeys can be altered using low-power, pulsating magnetic fields. But in these experiments, there were no antenna implants.
Any function in the brain, emotions, intellect, personality, could be perhaps modified by this non-invasive technology.
Delgado's research has so far been limited to animals. But in the Soviet Union, a radio frequency, or RF device, has been used for over 30 years to manipulate the moods of mental patients. It's called a LIDA machine. It radiates pulses of radio frequency energy, as well as light, sound, and heat. The pulse rate is in the extremely low frequency range, between 0 and 100 pulses per second.
A woman who has been paralyzed for 20 years has now been able to use a computer using just her mind. This is thanks to Elon Musk's Neuralink. Check it out.
Imagine the joy of connecting with your loved ones, browsing the web, or even playing games using only your thoughts. This is made possible by placing a small, cosmetically invisible implant in a part of your brain that plans movements. The device is designed to interpret your neural activity so you can operate a computer or a smartphone by simply thinking about moving. No wires or physical movement are required.
This is truly revolutionary for people who are paralyzed or quadriplegic like this woman. It is giving them new agency and freedom that they never thought they would get back. But there are also a range of other interesting implications from this technology. They think it can slow down degenerative brain disorders like motor neuron disease because it can stimulate brain reactions and connectivity between neurons that was previously lost. It can bring back vision even, and it can also have really interesting benefits for mental health because they think it will actually be able to modulate brain activity during depressive episodes or for schizophrenic people. So this truly is, I mean, talk about the next revolution in medical technology. I'm super excited for this, and it sounds like they'll be commercially available in around 15 years so we can all get our implants.
And really, once you understand the spiritual dimension to that, that's what occultism has been interested in for thousands of years, right? Satan is very good at hacking people. If you want to think of demonic possession and demonic oppression as hacking humans, well, he's known how to do that for a long time, and without even needing implants or some kind of antenna or whatever. And this is where it gets really tricky for us today, I think, because on the one hand, we have to take seriously the fact that they've been playing with these nanoparticles, self-assembling nanoparticles, magnetic nanoparticles, in all the different ways that they can be combined to create forms of nanocircuitry within the human body and respond to EMF and all this. And, I've been grappling with this since basically, I think, 2021, when I started really looking into what is in these injectables and what the heck is a lipid nanoparticle, and realizing how much was actually out in the open about nanotechnology. And it was extremely disturbing, as Clayton Morris said. It is extremely disturbing even before you get into the speculative side. Just the things that they think they can do, in medicine or cancer treatment or whatever. We saw with Project Stargate, Larry Ellison talking about, we're going to have tailor-made mRNA cancer vaccines because of AI. I mean, it's insanity.
So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
And speaking of Project Stargate, after I started working on this video, I saw an upload from one of my favorite researchers named Leonard Ulrich. I'm sure many of you are familiar with his work. Crazy to me to think that I started following his stuff over 10 years ago, at least. And he's what you would call a serious documentary maker and researcher, and someone who has a very proven track record over the years, and through COVID and all that. And so in his video New World Order Report, Trump's Big Beautiful Beast, he talks about the new documentary project he's been working on. And I thought, oh man, this fits perfectly into what I'm talking about in this video. So he gave me the thumbs up to share the trailer here. So I'm pretty excited for this to come out. I'm not sure when it's going to be finished, but here we go.
President Trump's announcement of Operation Stargate is a continuation of the COVID-19 transhumanist program. In case you doubt this, here is just a taste as to where my next feature film is going. This is part of the trailer to Died Suddenly 2, Nano Sapiens.
In late October of 2019, I was approached by leadership. There were 5 clients and there was a vendor in the room. The vendor was BioNTech. These are the notes that I took during the conversation of the meeting with the stakeholders. for the contact tracing application. It took the fabric of my reality and just roughed me. I mean, it just made me question everything.
Government is going to grant themselves powers unilaterally to create greater control over American society and global society.
COVID is critical because this is what convinces people to accept, to legitimize.
Upload complete.
Total biometric surveillance.
It's always the data. It's the crack cocaine of Silicon Valley. We are already living inside the architecture of totalitarianism.
We need not just to monitor people, we need to monitor what's happening under their skin.
I know my husband is not vaccinating people and putting a microchip in their arm because that technology doesn't even exist and he's never uttered the words out of his mouth, so.
Microchips and tracking devices are embedded in the vaccine. Is this accurate?
We have 6 MAC addresses that are pulsing Bluetooth signals, and all we are is surrounded by tombstones.
So can someone explain to me why we're getting EMF emissions off grave inside of a Faraday cage, please?
So we've seen the reports of individuals having unlicensed MAC addresses post-vaccination. I've seen evidence of that myself.
One of the requirements that it just changed the entire course of the conversation and frankly my life, that's when lipid nanos came into the conversation.
These are not vaccines, these are not biological. As you go through the patent in section 219, it explains how they are self-assembled nanoparticles, and they're fully programmable.
From a technical perspective, if I can retrieve data, I can send data.
DARPA calls it transhumanism.
I mean, can you hear what I just said and not want to just step away?
Blood samples aren't supposed to have blinking lights, but there they are. They're little dots. They move across the slide, and they're blinking. This was brain tissue that had been sitting in a jar of formalin for 6 months.
Even if the body dies, they continue.
Yes, apparently.
All of your biometric data, your location, your privacy, it's gone. If you took the vaccine, you are the router. You are a communication device now.
Aujourd'hui, au bout de ça, on parle de puces qu'on pourra s'implanter. Ce sera quand ça?
Certainement dans les 10 années à venir. Et d'abord, on va les implanter dans nos vêtements, c'est-à-dire wearables, comme on le dit. Et après, on pourrait s'imaginer qu'on les implante dans nos cerveaux ou dans notre peau. Et à la fin, peut-être il y a une communication directe entre notre cerveau et le monde digital. Ce que nous voyons, c'est une sorte de fusion du monde physique, digital et biologique.
We're about to launch one of the biggest advertising campaigns in HHS history to encourage Americans to use wearables. It's a way of people can take control over their own health. They can take responsibility. They can see, as you know, what food is doing to their glucose levels, their heart rates, and a number of other metrics as they eat it. And they can begin to make good judgments about their diet, about their physical activity, about the way that they live their lives. We think that wearables are a key to the MAHA agenda, making America healthy again. And we are going to, my vision is that every American is wearing a wearable within 4 years.
So what do you think about the use of artificial intelligence or lavender by the IDF in identifying Hamas targets?
Look, I'm not, without going into all the I'm not on top of all the details of what's going on in Israel because my bias is to defer to Israel. It's not for us to second guess everything, and I believe that broadly the IDF gets to decide what it wants to do, and that they're broadly in the right.
And along with the Lavender system, there is the Habsora AI system, which means the gospel, which is an AI tool created to address the human issue of running out of targets. Habsora generates up to 100 targets per day. Both these AI systems use Palantir's advanced surveillance technology to track every person's phone records, social media, and movement patterns. Palantir's tech is used by the U.S. military and local police departments. It is the premier tool for mass surveillance. When running for his first term, Trump was saying he would implement a biometric tracking system.
We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. We will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
Palantir co-founder Peter Thiel donated $1.25 million to that campaign, and he donated $15 million to J.D. Vance's 2022 Ohio Senate campaign. Palantir has significant ties to the CIA, starting in 2004 when the CIA's venture capital arm, In-Q-Tel, gave Palantir $2 million. Palantir's Gotham platform was developed by and for the CIA. Initially, the CIA was Palantir's sole customer for several years. Palantir is the CIA's surveillance tool. And now, Palantir is to create a system for the federal government that will monitor every American under an AI system, linking Social Security, the IRS, and immigration into one centralized system. It will be using its Gotham software, developed by the CIA, to track and condition human behavior. Most of yesterday's alternative media support this. For those who can still think clearly, this is as dystopian as it gets. But there are many fools who are content that the fascist society being put into place will not be woke. But don't be surprised if it comes with a carbon tax and an American version of a social credit system. Greg Reese reporting.
An American version of the digital social credit system. Funny how Telly never told us about that part. But then again, the more we've looked back over the various alleged scientific achievements and narratives fed to us by the government and science fiction writers throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, they actually have been saying it all along. Maybe that's the part that a lot of people just don't want to acknowledge. That this is the inevitable conclusion of exchanging the truth of the Bible for the dogmas of evolution. When you remove God from the equation, there is nothing left but some kind of dystopian society that can be rationalized quite easily and even celebrated as the dawn of a new golden age, a new era. And right now, companies like Neuralink are there to sell us on this idea of interacting with computers and the internet just using your thoughts. But as that guy being interviewed in the Nano Sapiens trailer says, that if you can receive data that way, then you can also broadcast it. It's two-way communication. And it does seem hard to avoid the conclusion that what was rolled out in 2020 was, at the very least, a beta test. And it's still very possible that we all have certain levels of unnatural EMF reactive materials in our bodies to some degree. And it's amazing how through every stage to get to where we are today, every stage had to be sold and marketed and pitched So you have to ask yourself, why are they doing that now with brain-computer interface? Why are they trying to sell you if it's not part of the script? Because in many ways, yeah, it seems like it would make life a lot more convenient to not have to be tapping on a screen or a keyboard. It's a lot easier to just read the AI summary than to go click on all the links and do the research yourself. It's a lot easier to use ChatGPT. But studies have already shown like how people are already completely losing their ability to critically think right now. Essentially, the entire education system is now in a quandary as to what to do, now that students think it's no different than using a calculator to do math. And these phones are so cumbersome, right? Such a burden. We went from having to learn how to use the phone book and use the rotary dial and know how to call the operator for assistance, to not even knowing anyone's phone number anymore. There are no more payphones. But eventually, we become the payphone. But it's hard to deny that we are rapidly approaching the point where Telezonia becomes a prison that you cannot escape. And the magic of sending your voice across the phone lines actually does turn into real witchcraft, a two-way communication, and one that you can't turn off and one that you can't get out of your head. And will people even want to at that point? When you think about how addicted to the phone people already are right now, when it still is something you can sit down and walk away from. But we already have the digital ID rolling out, and the airports are incorporating, biometric scanning. Australia and the UK are implementing age verification for the internet. I mean, it's happening very rapidly. And yet it's been building up for a very long time. And the delusion behind it has been out in the open. The transhumanist delusion has been out in the open for a long time.
It's been a night and a day of triumph for a surprising number of people in a surprising variety of professions. But as we have seen, few have more reason to feel vindicated than that literary subspecies, the science fiction writers. In London, Mike Wallace spoke with one of the most visionary and perhaps poetic of the breed, the author of the Martian Chronicles.
This is Ray Bradbury, for me the most evocative, the most persuasive of the science fiction writers. He has gone to space, he has lived in space, in his fertile imagination, off and on, since he was a boy of 9. Is this the way that you wrote the script? I think it is, Ray Bradbury.
Yes, and a lot of other people before me. Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, the great-uncles and grandfathers of all of us. When I was down in Houston a few years ago, I discovered in meeting the astronauts that they had read Jules Verne, they had read H.G. Wells, and in a few cases they had read some of my work, which made me feel very good at the time.
But it is astonishing, really, because they are following a script that seems to have been written by various writers over a period of the last half century.
Yes. Well, I look upon the function of the science fiction writer as being the romantic who starts things in motion, and the astronauts are the actors who come along and flesh it out and put bones inside the dream.
You have said that a single invention, the rocket, is redesigning mankind. Would you elaborate on that?
Well, it's redesigning us in the following ways. I'm willing to predict tonight that by the end of the century, our churches will be full again. That's redesigning mankind back in the direction of God again.
Because of space travel?
Because of space travel. Because when we move out into the mystery, when we move out into the loneliness of space, when we begin to discover we really are 3 billion lonely people on a small world, I think it's going to draw us much closer together.
Some people suggest that the very fact that we have now gone into space and have been on the other side of the moon has proved that there is no, well, the Russians themselves have said that proves that there is no God up there.
Well, they're welcome to use any cliches they want to use, and in turn I hope to be allowed to use my newer cliches. I believe firmly, excitingly, that we are God himself coming awake in the universe. In other words, we exist on a very strange world that we know nothing about. Our theologians have tried to help us understand this. Our scientists have tried to help us understand this. We know nothing. We start in ignorance.
Can man ever feel at home elsewhere than on Earth?
Yes, and he's going to make himself at home first on the moon, then we're going off to Mars, and then we're going to build ourselves large enough ships to head for the stars. And when we do reach the nearest stars and settle there, we'll be at home in the universe. That's what the whole thing is about. This is an effort on the part of mankind to relate himself to the total universe and to live forever. This is an endeavor to...
Wait a minute. Live forever,
you mean? To live forever. This is an effort to become immortal. At the center of all of our religions, and all of our sciences, all of our thinking over a good period of years has been the question of death. And if we stay here on Earth, we are all of us doomed, because someday the sun will either explode or go out. So in order to ensure the entire race existing 1 million years from today, 1 billion years from today, we're going to take our seed out into space and we're going to plant it on other worlds. And then we won't have to ask ourselves the question of death ever again. We won't have to say why existence, why life, why anything. We will stop questioning in those fields.
In this excellent article written by Whitney Webb, which I hope you will pause and read, Google and Oracle monitored millions of Americans who received the Operation Warp Speed injections through an incredibly precise, very active pharmacovigilance surveillance system. To this day, we do not know exactly what was being monitored and exactly how it was being monitored. In April 2024, Oracle and Palantir joined forces to deliver mission-critical solutions to governments and businesses, according to this press release. Following the October 7, 2024 attack of Israel, Palantir led the way in using artificial intelligence to kill Palestinians far more efficiently than humans ever could. We should care about what is happening in Iran and Gaza, because the way of Gaza will be the way of the world.